thanks everyone for coming out today for our first Global Justice Speaker Series. And we're so excited because I can't think of anyone better to kick off our speaker series than with our friend Bob Goff. And I'll introduce Bob in a moment. We'll have a few people coming in. And I'll just mention that we've, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've done this fall speaker series where we bring in some of our favorite people that are really, they're running, they're lawyers or human rights, rule of law individuals who are running top-notch organizations, doing work that inspires us, that we admire, and trying to give you exposure to them. And we've been fortunate to just have a great group of people who've come in the last few years, and we'll have a few more wonderful speakers this fall. We'll keep you informed on everything happening. But so today we get to have Bob kick us off, and as I mentioned, I can't imagine anyone better because Bob has been a great friend of Pepperdine. He now has 2 kids here studying at Seaver, so he's deeply invested. He's also teaching our nonprofits law class here at the law school. So I don't think is it still possible to sign up for classes?
Till Friday.
If you want more, sign up for Bob's class. You have till Friday, and you can learn about nonprofits and be inspired 2 days a week. But I think you'll enjoy this. I think you'll love Bob, and I think you'll walk away embracing whimsy, embracing incredible things that you can do with your law degree and with your life. And I'll say one last thing. And I think one of the things that I admire most about Bob is that he's been a model for me and a model for, I hope, a lot of us, is what our careers can look like. And that of being a lawyer, having your lawyer day job, but then doing what is your real day job, the day job for your heart. And that's the things that you get excited about, that you find bring you passion and can help go and seek justice for those in our world who need it. So I'll let Bob take over from here, and if you can help join me in welcoming him.
Hey everybody, thanks for letting me come. I really appreciate it. I love being up here. I'm stalking you guys. Hey, so yeah, Jay hit it right in the head. I use law as a day job. Have you guys thought about doing that? Where you could just think of all the things that brought you to law school, all the things that you wanted to accomplish, all the things that you vowed, like, if I'm a lawyer, this is good. Didn't you all start that way? You said, like, if I could go to law school, then this would happen. And I would vow to, but it gets a little murky after a while, doesn't it? Like, you start memorizing enough things, and for all the first-year students, something about Iraq, it's not like a place, it's a system, and you just start thinking about like, all the things that you have to memorize, and somehow it squeezes away the vows that you made to yourself. I've been married to Sweet Maria Goff for 25 years and 2 months. And we have this time up in Canada this summer, up at the end of an inlet, like 50 miles from the nearest 2-lane road. And I took her out for lunch. You know, we floated out in the middle of this inlet with glaciers around, packed a picnic, and I thought that was a really cool thing to do for your anniversary. And when we got back, there was just a little card, and it said from her, "Meet me in an hour." And what she had been working on for months and months, she had gotten her wedding dress and gotten all wandered, and she snuck it up to this place in the middle of nowhere. And she got a tuxedo, and we renewed our vows together. I'm emotionally incontinent, so I'm just like kind of crying the whole time. So I'm crying all the time, and we had the kids officiate because they weren't around for the first one. So the whole idea was to renew your vows. And I was thinking about that as I was driving up this morning. What if you like renewed your vows? To say, what is it that brought me to law school in the first place? And what is it that I want us to keep right in front of me? Because you start steering for the things that are in front of you. Aren't you? Like you just start, if it's in front of you, and if all that's in front of you are homework assignments or a job at a big law firm, you start kind of aiming for that. When I was in high school, it wasn't going well. And I remember there was this fella that hung around the high school. His name was Randy. And he was kind of weird in a way because he had a beard, he had a motorcycle, and he had a girlfriend. All 3 things I didn't have. But it was kind of creepy because, like, if you're in high school and you have a beard, like, you must not be very smart. Then I realized, I go, oh, I get it. He's like a youth young life leader. And he's around to like be friends with high school kids and all. I get it. And I wasn't interested, but I get it. But he was like showed up at all these things that I was doing. Well, I kind of lost interest in high school and kind of flattened out. By junior year, I was done. And I decided I'm moving to Yosemite. I'm gonna drop out. They had this course or a test you can test out of high school. What's that called? GED. I was going to take that, but I couldn't figure out how to sign up for it, which is an indicator. So I signed up for this thing, and I decided one Sunday I was leaving. You know, like with a physique like this, why wouldn't I want to climb mountains? So I stopped by Randy's house, and I knocked on the door, and it was a long minute or two, but he came to the door. And I said, hey, Randy, I just wanted to thank you. You've been a great friend. But I've decided I'm going to move to Yosemite, drop out of high school. And he looked at me and said, like, so have you given some thought to this? I said, yeah. He said, well, when are you going to go? I said, well, now. Like, my car's right there. He said, hang on a second. And he disappeared for a long couple minutes. And when he came back to the door, he had his backpack over one arm, and he had his sleeping bag under another. And he said, he just kept saying this, I'm just with you, man. I'm with you. I said, well, you want to come with me right now? He said, yeah, I'll take a bus back. Let's get you settled in. So we went to Yosemite. I applied to every outfitter and pancake flipping place, everywhere I could go, and everybody said, predictably, forget it. And I'm sitting on the bumper of my Volkswagen after a couple days and just kind of bummed, but Randy didn't sound like my dad or my mom. He just kept saying the same thing. I'm just with you. Well, I decided, you know, let's just go back. I'm just going to finish high school. I can get a job here. And so we made this long drive back from Yosemite. When we turned down the street, he lived on, his girlfriend was over visiting. And we got out of the car, I kind of followed him in, and there's a bunch of plates here, and some wrapping paper, and a toaster, and I'm like, it's not his birthday, it wasn't Christmas. And then I realized that on Saturday, Randy got married. And on Sunday, I showed up on his front door. And he didn't see me as an interruption. He just saw me as a kid jumping the tracks. There's something I learned from Randy that love does. Love does. Love doesn't just think about it. Love doesn't just stalk it. The things that got you to law school, the things that were on your hit list to accomplish the vows you made, were about doing stuff. What I found in law school is that I was so busy memorizing stuff, I didn't have time to do stuff. And then, don't you feel like that? Like sometimes, like wouldn't it like be a little creepy if I knew this wedding you went to last weekend? Or if I knew your sister's name? Be like, creepy, right? Stalkers find out information about people. Like they just collect data and information. You get this false positive when you're studying an issue, whether it's a dispute in Congo or Uganda or somewhere else, that you're collecting all this information. And I realized that I was stalking this idea of impacting the world. I was finding out a bunch of information and it felt like I was doing stuff, but it wasn't doing stuff. I got out of high school and I decided I'm going to be a youth leader, just like Randy. I'm going to be awesome, but I won't leave on my wedding day. And so I went, I applied to this place, Young Life. I said, can I be a youth leader? And they said, forget it. I'm like, really? And they said, really? So I moved up to Canada, of course, and I lived in a dude's basement. I ran this like sailing program. But I was thinking, you know, this is fine. I'm like 20 or something, but I can't be 50 living in a guy's basement. So one Thursday, I woke up and I said, I'm going to law school. It was just like that. I told you the whole conversation. So I bought the LSAT book for $5.95 and I read it back to front to back 5 or 6 times, signed up for the course, and when I arrived there to take the test, there's these people who are really nice, and they said, oh, what prep class did you take? I'm like, there's a class? So I got creamed because it tested me absolutely accurately. It just like pegged me. So I sent all these applications out to law schools and they all said the same thing. Forget it. And I got tons of mail. It all just said the same stuff. There's this one law school though, and they had not responded to me. I think they figured we both just kind of knew. I applied to them. And so, 5 days before law school started, I went to meet the dean. I thought, that would be smart. I just go meet the dean. So I went in, I read all the books, firm handshake, lots of eye contact. I said, I'm Bob Goff, and I've applied to your law school, and I didn't hear back. I didn't put on a waiting list. And he's already shaking my hand, saying, we have many qualified candidates. You're not one of them. So as he's walking me towards the door, I said, hey, you have the power to tell me this. You could just tell me to go get my books. You have the power to let me in. All you have to do is say the word. And over, whether it's in Bible stories or your life experience, the words that we speak have power. Some people have power to make things happen. Well, this dean said, now, great to meet you and see you later. But you know what? He thought I was leaving. There's a bench outside of his door, so I sat on it. And so 45 minutes later, when he went to a meeting, he walked by a little startled, why is he sitting on my bench? And I said, just tell me to get my books. You're right. So he's done, no. So he came back from the meeting, and a little bit later, I was still sitting there. He left for his next meeting, and he said, tell me to get my books. So this went on 4 days before law school, 8 a.m., I'm there on my bench. I missed most of the 60s, this was a sit-in. I was stalking him. 3 days before law school, tell me to get my books. 2 days. You know the day, law school is going to start, and I knew this is the day. It's going to happen. When you just know it, you know it. So I sprung out of bed, and all the smart kids got there. I kind of hated them because they all got in, and I'm sitting on the bench. Nothing. Day 2 of law school, tell me to get my books. Day 3, I'm not even in law school and I'm behind. Day 4, I hear the footfall, and it's just the typical thing. I'm thinking, it's a little early, but he's had a lot of water. So I'm sitting there, and the footfall stops, and I get ready to say my thing, and he looks down at me and says, go get your books. And that's how I got into law school. Every neat thing, any whimsical, inexplicable thing that's ever happened in my life has happened like that. And some of the whimsy gets squeezed out of us in law school because we're really busy doing important stuff. You gotta memorize this stuff. But I guess my point is this, that our words have power. The things that people will look to you and are already looking to you for is leadership. The things that you say, the things that you do make a huge difference. And if we could just fall in love with something, everybody knows what it's like to fall in love, right? You just feel that whole thing. I was listening, I didn't even have an iPod, but I borrowed one, and I was listening to that song Love Story by Taylor Swift. You guys know that? It starts it's banjo music, it's happy. So I put it on repeat, and I flew to the East Coast. I landed in DC. Want to know how many times I've heard that song? Divide 2 minutes and 32 seconds by North America. That's how many times I've heard that song. Do you know how many words from that song I can remember? Pick a random number. I don't remember anything about the song. It's just a bunch of banjo music. I remember, go get your white dress, and then that, the dance said scram. But that's because that's Taylor Swift's song. What about your song? What about your love story? And this opportunity to be in law school and find the things, those vows that you made to yourself, what am I going to do, and how am I going to go do it? Those are the things. Forget, do you remember forget the first kiss, the first time you touched knees with somebody you like. Can't you remember, everything about that? I can. Why is that? It's because it's mine, and this opportunity that we have as up-and-coming lawyers is to turn the stuff that we vowed to do into the stuff that we actually do. Now, if you're around my house, we had these, Maria gave in, we got married, we have these fantastic kids, and those of you that know me know that we didn't have a television around the house. We had this thing on 9/11. If something bad happens, I want the kids to hear from me. So if the president gets a girlfriend or a plane hits a building, whatever it is, I want them to hear from Dad. And that morning the plane hit the building, I said, if you had 5 minutes in front of a world leader, 5 minutes in front of Pharaoh, what would you say to make sense of your faith, your hopes, Adam is 7 years old, Richard's 9, and Lindsay's 11. So Adam's the first to go, and he said, you know what, if I have 5 minutes, I'd invite that world leader over for a sleepover. Isn't that great? When you're 7, our sleepover's great. It's you can just, your pals afterwards. Richard, I think, is our pastor in the making. He said, I would ask them this. If I had 5 minutes, I'd say, what is your hope in? Because if I figured out what you were hoping for, maybe I'd be hoping for the same thing. And Lindsay said, hey, if you wouldn't take me up on come over to our house for the sleepover, could we come over to your house and videotape an interview with you and ask you what your hope is in? Maybe we can pass that message of hope on to another world leader. So I made a deal with the kids. Why don't we'll write a letter to every leader in the whole world, whether we have relationships with them or not. We'll say in the letterette, this is Lindsay, Richard, and Adam Goff. We want to know if you want to come over for a sleepover. And if you can't make it, could we come over to your house and ask you what your hope is in? So we downloaded the CIA website. We got the name of every leader in the whole world. It just said Gaddafi, Tripoli. Actually, we got a post office box because we didn't want Gaddafi to know where we lived. And we sent these letters to everybody. The deal was this: if you get one yes, I'll take it. And so every day we'd go after school, big packs of letters, and the kids would say, hey, Dad, where's this country? You'd be like, it's east of here. So one day there's all this squealing in the back of the car, and the leader of Bulgaria said, if you'll come to the palace, I'll give you your interview. And the kids were like, ah! And then the Prime Minister of Switzerland said, if you come to Bern, I'll give you your interview. And then the President of Israel said, if you come to Jerusalem, I'll give you your interview. We got 29 yeses. How cool is that? So when you guys are thinking about how am I going to take this law school, I know what my vows were, I know what I wanted to accomplish. When I see how people, it seems like over and over again, we kind of get head faked to think it's the people with the big names and all this, resume stuff. I just see God used over and over again. It's always the unschooled, ordinary people. It's always the people like us that just kind of get stuff done because we decide to make it happen. We don't go with big agendas. We go just to be friends. So we pulled the kids out of school. And the teachers out of Cal, they said, we're holding them back. I'm like, sue me. So we just went. At the end of each of these interviews, we would give a little box. And you couldn't carry chocolates. Half these places, they'd melt. But in the box was the key to our front door. Now, I'm invisible on this whole thing. My name doesn't show up anywhere. It's all the kids' email address. And I'm at work, and I get a call from the State Department. And they say, Mr. Goff, how's it going? They say, are you aware the kids are corresponding with this particular person? I go, yes, isn't that great? So they go, are you aware they're planning a trip there? I said, yes. They said, are you going with them? I said, awesome, want to come? So the whole idea of what if you think broader, more extravagantly about how you can use this law degree than just being a typical lawyer. Because, okay, who wants to be typical? None of you, but who ends up being typical? Lots of people. So how can you say, I want to back away slowly from this gravitational pull towards typical? What if you just plant the flag in the sand right now in law school and say, I'm going to do this law thing, but I don't want to do it in a typical way? One of these trips, we ended up to Mahathir. He's the leader, dictator of Malaysia for 25 years. And he convened the World Islamic Conference. And he was the keynote speaker, and he said two things: death to America and death to Israel. And so the kids sent a cable to him, and he said, we just met with a guy from Israel. Could we come and give you his message of hope to you? And he said, I'll meet you on Wednesday in Kuala Lumpur. So we sold a pickup truck. We win. The whole idea, what if you just say this two-part, instead of stalking these things, and he's interested to talk to me, he's interested in talking to these little kids that would have the guts and the grit to go make things happen. From there we ended up in India, where children are bought and sold. Children my daughter's age are bought and sold for $300 or $400. I thought, man, if that isn't in your wheelhouse in terms of justice issues, what if we get some skin in the game? What if we will find some Indian investigators and we'll just start going into brothels? So we would duct tape recording decks on our back, and I would have a lens that looks like a button, and we would just go into brothels and ask for 12-year-olds. And when these slave traders, the mutalalis for kids that are bonded laborers, or the people that own the brothels, when they would bring the 12-year-olds out, we would arrange a raid, and then importantly, prosecute the bad guys. Isn't that what you want to do with your law degree? Don't you want to do, if not that, some riff on that? Something where you said, I love justice. I have this justice reflex. I don't know why I do it. I just reflex towards justice. I bet that was the screensaver as you were thinking about law school. And I guess I just want to be another voice in the congregation saying, don't lose that. Renew those vows over and over again. We ended up in Uganda. The demographic for Uganda, the youngest age population in the world at the time, 14 and a half years old, the average age for the entire country. Isn't that crazy? It's a nation of kids, and I know because I'm like ADD boy, like, I don't want to be part of something that's going to happen in 3 years. 300 minutes, I'm in. But 300 years, well, here is a whole nation of kids. I thought, wouldn't this be great to get some skin in the game there? So we started a school up by the border of Sudan. We had 16 kids on day one. We had 20 teachers. It was incredible. It was like nobody wanted to come because they were like, who are you guys? And then the people in charge, they said, no, there's this 3-year process for starting a school. We're like, we're just going to start right now. What happens when you just get started with some things? Take the things that you're dreaming about. Do you guys remember that movie, The Incredibles? Do you remember that? Yeah, remember there's this like big guy that he used to be a superhero, but now he's doodling and drawing like capes and all that like for his next uniform. And then who's the short lady? Edna. Remember? And her favorite line is, no cape. The whole idea, and then she shows all these loops about how these superheroes get sucked into jet engines by their capes. What if you said this? There's a lot of times, and when we get to the do part of justice, and we start thinking about how we make things happen overseas, a lot of times people say, let's start a nonprofit. And the first thing they want to do is, well, we have to have a mission statement, right? Wrong. Don't have one. If you want a mission statement, here's the mission statement. Get your undershirt out and write, be awesome. Right? Don't put it on the back of a hoodie. Like, just be secretly incredible. Just say, every time you need to figure out who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do with this law thing, check out your undershirt, be awesome. And then everything that you do, aim towards that. Because wouldn't you agree with a really high-functioning group like you, that you are able to do a whole lot more than you were made to do? Wouldn't you agree with that statement? The abilities in this room are outstanding. Like it'd fill every chalkboard to write all the things that you're able to do, but we were made to do something else. We were made, there's that one thing that you know, your factory settings where you were made to do that. And I guess I want to be another voice to say, let's aim for that. Let's do that together. What if we make a posse? We won't make a nonprofit for Pete's sakes. Let's just make a posse of us. We'll all have the same mission statement, be awesome. But then we'll just go do stuff. And the whole idea of that is you're going to find a lot more one-to-one. So we end up in Uganda. I thought, judiciary, where would the judges hang out? If I could be one. I'm thinking courthouse. So, literally, this is the commerce that happens is between you and Delta Airlines. Buy a ticket. You landed in Tebe. I took a cab to the courthouse. This is at the height of the insurgency, so I just found the judges' chambers that had the most guys with machine guns out front of it. I'm like, he must be important. So I just went, I didn't have an appointment or anything, and I'm like, pardon me, safety. Pardon me. So I got to the secretary and said, could I see the judge? And she said, well, do you have an appointment? I'm like, not really, but I really want to see the judge. Inexplicably, she said, yes. So, went in and had this great conversation with this judge who many of you are friends with now, Ben Adoki. And at the end, I gave him this big bear hug. I was just nose to nose. I said, this was awesome. And he's like, he's thinking back to me, this is why I have guys with machine guns. But it began, I started by buying the entire Ugandan Law Library, both books. And we said, why don't we just start briefing cases? What if we start going into jails? Or in Gulu, they haven't had a session for 20 years. Judges wouldn't go up in the north. So along with my law partner, Danny, and a bunch of other people with goodwill, we just started saying, what if we just start doing stuff and see where it leads? It ended up being this fantastic adventure. I guess what I want to draw you into, to say all those things you were vowing to do, it's just like pick your place, throw the dart at the wall, whatever it is that you want, but just start, buy a ticket. Be awesome. What if you just start with that and then see whether you do these things because you think humanity rocks, because it does. Do it because humanity rocks. If you do it because God rocks, He does. So go do it because God rocks. But mostly do the stuff. Don't stalk it. So we ended up thinking through how do we whimsically but strategically make a difference. Now my favorite place in the whole world is Disneyland. And those of you who know me know my favorite place at Disneyland is Tom Sawyer Island. Have you guys been there? TSI. So, what I love about it is you have to take a raft to get there. Like, how many places do you have to take a raft? Across from the pirate ship, there's a little pier that sticks out. People think it's a prop because there's like fake, gunpowder and all that. But there's a table. That's my table. That's my office. It's my pirate ship. Actually, it's my island. When I have people meet me at Tom Sawyer Island, we don't talk about stuff we talk about in boardrooms. Would you agree? Like, there's something about the way that we're connected together. It has to do with geography. And so we get the most fantastic people to have the most fantastic conversations on Tom Sawyer Island. Here's one of them. We brought Benedoki, the Chief Justice of Uganda's Supreme Court, to Tom Sawyer Island. And we said, what do you want to do together? I said, I've got a suggestion. What if we just be awesome? So if you go to Benedoki's office right now, in Kampala, you're going to see a picture of his wife and his grandchildren, and you're going to see a pair of Mickey Mouse ears behind his desk. Isn't that what happens? Oh, actually, I took him on the Jungle Cruise so we could really understand what Africa's all about. And then we went to Indiana Jones, the whole thing, and then the fake rock comes down, and I said, wasn't that just like the movie? And he said, there's a movie? I'm like, no! Here's the idea. It's not just whimsy, it's strategic whimsy. What if you start rolling out as your first piece of advocacy, figuring out what your wiring harness is? Wouldn't you agree we all have to push back from the table just a little bit? Get your right foot out. Got your right foot out? Give it a try. Okay, start go clockwise. I can't see your feet, but make sure it's going clockwise. Okay, now slowly reach up with your right hand. Okay, draw a 6. Did it reverse? I have no idea. I've lost him. He's still making 6s. So for the rest, it's gone. But if you could figure out, wouldn't you agree that we all have this wiring harness? Figure out this thing that you were made to do. And then what if we live into that? And all the places that's going to take you are magnificent. Wouldn't you agree if we could figure out this thing that we were made to do? So, like the friends from Pepperdine started going into jails and doing these cases, these interventions. The first case we heard about was a little boy. It wasn't the first case. It was last year we heard about a little boy. We'll just call him Charlie. And a witch doctor abducted this kid. This is the guy. His name is Kabi. Charlie had a bunch of body parts removed. And this witch doctor left him for dead. And they thought the problem with child abduction, child sacrifice in Uganda, and trafficking of body parts is there's always a victim, but they're always dead. But here's the deal. Charlie told me later, I love God. I wasn't ready to die. It's not great from coming from a 7-year-old. He said, so I stood up and I walked out of that cassava field until somebody found me. Well, Charlie's life is permanently altered because of that. We decided, what if we get some skin in here? We went to one of these judges. There weren't judges that wanted to try cases against witch doctors. There's a law against trafficking in persons. It had never been used, not even once, in Uganda. So we said, what if we try the case against it? We got permission. We got permission to tape record the whole case. Now, when the judge decided to take this case, immediately the witch doctor started hanging juju bags and all this stuff. He got 3 guys with machine guns to surround his house. Those guys are still there. This was the first conviction in Uganda of a witch doctor. And what happens when you roll out this idea, this vow that you made to do justice, to make a difference, it's going to change everything. You get some skin in you, you start thinking through, how can I roll out my legal career and make a difference? And you're going to find it. Let me introduce you to the kid we'll call Charlie. Don't you want to get touched on the nose at the end of your life? Don't you want just somebody to say, you know, you did something that's going to change everything? And getting back to my first thought, it's always the unlikely people that get picked. It's the kids that we'll call Charlie to change everything. Because as soon as that conviction went out, one of the first-year law students, Ashley, and someone else, took that conviction around to every judge. And you know what I told them? Don't make appointments. Just show up and say, here are the trial briefs. If you won't go try the case, we'll go try the case. Don't you want to take whatever it is that you were made to do and then go do lots of that? It doesn't sound complicated, but I got a 4 on the LSAT. Like, I'm not that smart, but I'm good at like doing stuff. And so you guys get the double whammy because you're like really smart and you're really good at doing stuff. Here's the deal too. So one of the impediments is that you go like, but like, how can I do it? Because I'm just out of law school, right? How many of you are broke? That's your biggest, isn't this cool? Like, well, what do you guys have to lose? What do you do? What do you think, get more broke? Like way broke? Right, so this, strategically, wouldn't you say this is a good time to give a whirl to whatever you were made to do? If you lose half of everything you have, how much you got? Still about the same stuff. If I lose half of what I've got, I'm the guy, like, I don't want to lose a car or a condo or whatever. And that's what you'll find from some of the people that are sending in the plays. They're operating from a different set of blueprints than you. And one of the encouragements is to take a flyer early on. Be the person that just goes wherever it is. Uganda doesn't have a monopoly on it, but find some place to not only just learn about the issue, but then engage it. Now, if you hung out with me for a while, you know I'm a practical joker. Love playing practical jokes. There's this buddy I have, Doug. He's not as good at it as me, but like we've been best friends since junior high. He made the mistake of telling me where he was spending his 10-year anniversary. So, yes, so I took Sweet Maria, and we went to the penthouse suite they rented, and we checked in as them. Isn't that great? So, up I went, and we called the concierge, and we had lobster sent up. We played music, we danced, creme brulee, we had ice cream. I gave the waiter a huge tip, and then we tidied up and we split. And the whole idea is that Doug would come, have this incredible time. It's like, you know, from here you can like look out this window and see London, and this window you can see Asia. I mean, it's just one of those places. The elevator opens up in the room, get it? So, he has this fantastic night. And then, when he goes to leave, he gets this $400 bill from me. He's like, bah! So, he's been trying to get me back for years, but he can't, because I'm a lawyer. So, I made this call about 3 years ago, and this voice with this really heavy Ugandan accent said, "This is Ambassador Kamununweri, and I'm aware of," and then he started going through all the stuff that Doug knew about. I know about the school and the work in the jails and all that, and I'd like to know if you'll be counsel for the Republic of Uganda. I'm like, Doug, I can't lie, that was a good accent, and that was creative, but you know. So I just covered the phone, and I told Sweetman, I go, you know, I'm just going to say yes, no matter what he says, I'll just say yes. So I said, awesome, I was hoping you'd ask, be delighted to be counsel for the Republic of Uganda. He said, great, I'm leaving for Uganda, I'll be back in 2 months, I'll give you a call. So I figured this joke had kind of gone its course, and the phone rings. Oh yeah, by the way, he has my phone number? Not. So the phone rings 2 months later, and he says, this is Kamununweri again, and I need you to meet me in New York on Saturday. So I said, yes. So now I'm getting off the plane at JFK, thinking there's going to be a sign that says gotcha or something, and at the bottom of the ramp, there's all these people from Uganda's cabinet there. No way! So this really jolly guy comes running out of his name and he says, I'm Ambassador Kamununweri. And I said, of course you are. And he introduces me to them as Uganda's new consul. And I'm like, you said counsel, like lawyer. He said, no, I said consul, like diplomat. I'm like, yes. So he said he turned in the paperwork, and so I just gave him a couple passport photos to go with it. Goes to Uganda's parliament, and 4 months later, it gets approved. Now I'm back in my office, and the FBI files are probably already this big from the whole world leaders thing, and I get a call from the FBI. And they say, so let me get this right. So you're like, surfer guy in San Diego, and you're going to be a diplomat for Uganda. I said, yes, isn't that great? So here's the deal. When you're the consul, you get 3 things. You get some license plates. They're awesome. You can park anywhere. You can park at second base at Fenway Park. You get some little flags, Ugandan flags. I think it's a little much for the Jeep, but you get some Ugandan flags. But here's the best thing about the whole thing. You get diplomatic immunity. I could kill you. Don't you guys want to live into the whimsy and wonder of what you're going to do with this law degree? Don't you think about, like, what could I do if I really took this thing out for a spin around the block and then just see what happens? Couldn't you just imagine something spectacular would come from that? There's I work on these cases as a day job, and Danny DeWalt, my law partner, we've been working on this stuff for the longest time, and we've found an area of law that it's not like one of those must be present to win all the time, so we can play hooky and hang out down there. You know what, you want to be in on a secret? I live in San Diego. I've been commuting to Seattle for 20 years. Now, every lawyer in Seattle thinks I'm looking at the Space Needle right now. Don't tell them. So, I have a phone, and if somebody needs to meet me, so long as it's not shorter than 3 hours, I say, awesome, see you then. So you know that movie, Up in the Air? That guy's got nothing on me. I just up and back, up and back, up and back, up and back. The whole idea is to find a lifestyle, find an area of law that you could practice, where you could live into who you were made to do. So as we're thinking about this, how to keep my attention on these cases that go for years and years and years, I give myself a treat at the end. Like one time it was a Schwinn route bike. I was doing, the newspaper bikes, the rack in front where you put all the newspapers. That was going to be my treat at the end of the case. When the jury came back, I was going to go get mine. Like it was one of those, yes, you will be mine. So that kept me going for 3 years on the same. Well, the other thing I decided to do is I was going to give myself a treat of this painting. I had seen this painting. It was called The Puppeteer. It was in this gallery, and it was more expensive than anything, like 3 cars, but I wanted that painting more than food. And so I saved and saved and saved my money, and it took a year, but I finally, the case finished, and I went down to get The Puppeteer. And this guy with this fake accent, was talking about, how the person who painted it was 90 years old and was blind. And, he's laying it on thick and painted it with, a brush that had one hair from a unicorn. So I get it, it's a nice painting. But when I went to pick it up, I arrived there and he had 2. I don't get it. He said, no, this is this museum quality painting, The Puppeteer, and this one over here is a fake. And what you do is you take the real one and you put it in a vault or do something where it won't get damaged. But the fake one is the one that you put up. So if that gets damaged, no big deal. Let me ask you guys, which one would you guys put up? The real one, are you kidding me? Absolutely, so I did. If you come around my house, we have rubber band wars. Awesome thermonuclear rubber band wars. I'm always armed, right? Because you never know. Who's going to come? Sweet Maria, despite her nice look, she's deadly. So I sit every morning in my favorite chair and I look at the Puppeteer hanging on the wall. Every whisker is perfect in the original Puppeteer. And I sat there one morning and I looked and the Puppeteer had taken one right in the head. There was a rubber band mark on the Puppeteer right here. And at first I'm oh my gosh. But here's the deal. You know what? Every time I still look at that painting, do you think I see something damaged? I see my kids. I see all the fun we've had, all the whimsy, all the rubber band marks, do you think when God made Charlie someday, he's going to see damage? He's not. He's going to see a beautiful kid, a perfect kid. You guys want to know the after story to this event with Charlie? I get a call about 3 months ago from this guy. He said, "You don't know me from Adam, but I've heard the story about Charlie, and I can fix him." I'm like, you haven't heard the story about Charlie then, because you can't fix that. He said, "I can fix him. I was the chief of surgery at USC for 20 years, and now I'm the head of surgery at Cedars-Sinai. I can fix him." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" This guy was learning how to fly float planes, and the person teaching him was talking about Charlie, was somebody that is aware of the story. And so I said, "Well, we should meet and talk about that then." I said, "How about Tom Sawyer Island?" And he said, "I'll be there." I was like, "Yes, he's my kind of guy." So the night before, though, he called. And he said, "You know what, I can't do the Tom Sawyer Island thing." I thought, shoot, it might just be too much for the lab. And so he said, "But what if we meet in the cockpit of a B-17 bomber that I just flew in?" I'm like, "Yes." Isn't that the way it goes with this strategic whimsy? It metastasizes. So here's the deal. This guy says, "I do this repair. I will repair him for free." Now, all the rest of the charges, though, for anesthesiologists and all the rest of this is $50,000. But Bob, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay. Cedars-Sinai 3 weeks ago wrote a check for $50,000. Charlie went in for his visa interview and walked out at 1:42 this morning with a visa. He and his mom and his little brother are moving to Los Angeles to get repaired. And you know who he's moving in with? Randy. 6 months. It's a 6-month process. You know what happens when you roll out your law degree? All these inexplicable things happen. But you don't just like put a toe in the water. Do a cannonball. You guys know a cannonball, right? I do it when I take out the third row. Like, you do a cannonball. And you say, what inexplicable things could happen? And all of this work that you're putting in, all the memorization, all the long hours, all the things that you miss out on because you're head down here, it's all for one purpose. So you can say to a kid like Charlie someday, "I'm your lawyer." If you want a high calling, a vote, that's your vow. You're going to be lawyers. And it isn't this nonsense that people tell jokes about. It is the highest calling I can think of. And it's going to change everything for a kid like that. And the whimsy just continues. Because Randy's going to walk away changed. You're going to walk away changed. Charlie's going to walk away changed. And that's the way it is. So you guys want to do that? You know what? If you hang the real you out, you're going to take a hit. Are you guys willing to? You're going to take a hit. And you have this decision to make in law school. Will I be like the fake version of me, the cheap imitation, or will I hang the real me out there? And it's scary. And I'm just telling you. I'll tell you, I'll flip to the end of the page. Start writing the story. You'll take a hit. But I think most of you are willing to. You'll take a hit to make a difference because that's what you were made to do. And so, the older brothers and sisters, we got one mission in life. It's to back you up. As you do this stuff, as you say, "This is who I was meant to be." So arm yourself, would you? There, that's a tort. Arm yourself. Let's go make this thing happen. I got one last thing to say. Let's not just study it. Go get your books.
Bob, we just love having you here, love having you teach, and you bring us back to whimsy, and every time I hear you speak, I renew my vows for why I came to law school, so thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I guess we have a couple minutes left.
Bob, you mentioned Randy. You make it clear that Randy is the surgeon, so he's going to be living with the surgeon.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, so I called him this morning on the way up here. I called him and said, "Randy, guess what?" Because that's the deal with the great caper. Do you feel like law school's a caper? Or does it feel like more like a prank? Right? Like some bad prank. Like a prank. If we assembled a Volkswagen up on the roof, that would be a prank, right? It would be a last day of law school, but it would be a prank. Like Ding Dong Ditch. Like that's a prank, right? You ring the doorbell at old man McCready's house, maybe there's something on fire on the porch. Like that is a prank, but a caper is something where people are leaning in. And I feel like we, as a group, as a posse of people, we can be part of this caper. And then you don't have to include people in the caper that think about the world just like you do. Randy and I probably couldn't be different in terms of our worldview, what lights us up, but we're absolutely parallel when it comes to helping other people out. So yeah, Randy's good. Yes, sir.
Can you talk more about your day job and how you have that structure to allow you to do some stuff?
Yes, so I'll give you 2 points about my day job. Every Thursday, I quit something. I just do, does that sound good? I'm thinking out of the 4 on the LSAT. So every Thursday rolls around, and I just quit. If there's an honorary client, somebody that we're not getting along, we just say, hey, we're done, and you don't owe us anything, and let's go find you somebody really smart or like you or whatever, but let's get you somewhere else. So one of the things that we do is keep short accounts. We make things happen. I'll tell you, Danny and I have this law firm for 1 year at a time. How many law firms do you know that do that? The whole U.S. Constitution was written on 4 pages, right, including signatures. We've got about a 2-page agreement. And it just says, this law firm is over on December 31st. Does that sound crazy? But people start feeling like the man's keeping them down. They're really not sure who the man is, but they're positive they're being kept down by him. So what we're saying, so with Sweet Maria's permission, I get to ask every paperclip guy and paralegal lawyer, will you practice law with me for 1 more year? Every December 31st. So we practice law as just a traditional law firm. We're just pretty good lawyers. The law firm is up in Washington State. It's in Seattle. We use that as literally as our day job. Danny will be going to Africa in a week. He'll come back. I'll go a little bit after that. So we just do a tag team. And we don't like have a big, elaborate agreement. You know, if lawyers were trying to agree what's fair, they would have an agreement that looked like the yellow pages. But then they'd also kind of hate each other because it wasn't fair enough. So by just doing something simple and straightforward, we just said, what if we just use our law firm and just do good with it? We'll be good lawyers and professional and head down. But the stuff that we were made to do is over here, and that's what we're going to let steal our passions. And we're construction lawyers. Just get like criminal law, that would be like remember I'm emotional, to cry or something, I suppose. You know, or people arguing about spatulas or kids, that would just be too much. This is all dirt and 2x4s. So it's like you roll the dice, move your eyes, nobody gets hurt. So that's it. Other questions? You guys are going to be the ones that are doing this. And do you do you think I'm just blowing sunshine at you when I say, so there's like these older brothers and sisters, there's a lot of people here that can run small countries, but they've decided to back you up and to say, what can we do together? I want to give you one last thought. Obama and every president before him, when he gets together, he assembles a cabinet, right? And he says, you know, you're in charge of agriculture and you're in charge of finances. I want the guy in charge of finance to be a real tightwad. But you guys get to pick who's on your cabinet. So pick people on your cabinet that are worthy of it. Like, who's in charge of fun in your life? But don't give them, don't put the fun guy in charge of finance. So find the right seat on the bus. But who are the people? And find somebody in charge of whimsy. Or put me on your cabinet. I'm on Facebook. I'm the guy holding all the balloons. I want to see if up was really true. It's a lie. So I just climbed up on the roof and we tied them on. So the whole idea of thinking about who would it be, because you have this great opportunity to assemble your starting lineup, who would it be that would be in your cabinet to launch you towards some of those things you were made to do? If there's any last questions, I'm going to hang around afterwards. God bless you guys for what you're doing. You guys inspire me in all that you're doing with your effort, all the hard work that goes into this, and just know we're just absolutely available. There's nothing better we would want to do than back you guys up.
Please help us thank Bob one more time.